Apologize for that omission.
Okay, thank you.
Now you can resume.
Okay, I will resume. Thank you, honorable members and chair, for this opportunity to appear before this committee. I'm Francis Mathenge Wanderi. I hail from the Nyeri County. I have worked in the public service. My last appointment in the public service was the chairman of Export Processing Zones Authority, where I served as a chairman for 6 years, between 2008 to 2014. And I made a lot of impact through my leadership. I'm a holder of Bachelor of Education degree from University of Nairobi. I did a master's degree in management science from other Digital Management Education Institute in USA, where I was sponsored by the Kenya government when I was working at Kenya Institute of Administration as a lecturer. I worked in the private sector as well. I worked as a bank with the Continental Credit Finance Bank. I worked with the Savannah Group as an executive director. I've also worked in the NGO. I served as a manager in AMREF in the 90s. I was in charge of various projects within AMREF. And after retiring from EPZ, I have been doing my own business. I'm a management consultant. Currently, that's what I do. And I also do my own private business. So basically, I consider myself a strategic thinker. I'm good in organization. And as we continue, you look at my CV, the way I have worked at EPZ, I was able to double within the 6 years the investment value at EPZ and employment as well of Kenyans. So I'm bringing to IEBC, if I'm appointed, the organizational capacity, the management capacity, and the building the capacity of the institution. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, we have also a member who may put questions to you, who is on the link. He's virtual.
Okay.
For this meeting. His name is Honorable Peter Kaluma. So members, you have any questions to Mr. Wanderi? Yes, Honorable Aruach.
Thank you very much, Chair. Mr. Wanderi, I noticed that during the period 2003-2007, you worked as the chairman of Kieni CDFC. I also noticed that at some stage, you vied for a parliamentary seat. Now, those two scenarios, how do you expect them to assist you if you are approved for appointment? Are there advantages or disadvantages? Explain how.
Just hold on.
Okay.
Note the questions, comments, so that you answer them together. Any other question from members?
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Wanderi, I've gone through your CV, and indeed, you do have a lot of, you've been political activities, having been a chairperson of various parties or an official of various parties. Having stated that, as a Kenyan, what are your views of what happened in the last election when we had a commissioner leave the country and, in essence, or in my personal and considered opinion, abscond her duties? I would like to know, I've seen that you've also written or worked as a journalist or writer for certain newspapers.
Any other question? Ask yours. Or you don't have now, later. Okay. Mr. Wanderi, go ahead and answer those.
Thank you, Chair, and the honorable members. When I worked in 2003 to 2007 as the CDF chair of Ken constituency, I pride myself because I managed to create an organization, because that was the first time the CDF was given to the constituencies, first time. And it was a little money. It was about 6 million shillings in constituencies. And I pride myself because I was able to organize the management structure of that CDF within Kenya in a way that we had impact everywhere. And thereafter, my organization was that we needed to make everybody feel the impact of the CDF that was given. So I was able to create a structure within that short period of time that helped to distribute the money for CDF to every corner of Kenya, and everybody felt that the project. One of the issues that I did was to ensure that projects were generated from the grassroots. In every, then those who are sub-locations could be able to generate the project you need to do in this particular area. They come to the location, and then we are able to distribute the money equally. So the structure was one of the things I think I pride myself in. As an MP for Kenya, I would want to say that I vied for Kenya parliamentary seat. I lost, but the experience I've had in terms of organization of campaigns, organization of election process, which I had done also with other leaders who have been there before, is what I'm going to bring to the IEBC if I'm lucky to be appointed. I have a strong belief that organization of any institution is key to delivery of service by that organization. So we'll probably be able to look at how the delivery service by IEBC to reach and to make sure the elections are done properly is done. So I have the organizational capacity, I have the experience in campaigns, and I'll be able to deliver that to the IEBC. Thank you. The other one about the last election, some commissioners leaving the country. I think I'm patriotic enough. I consider the departure referred to by honorable member as cowardice, and I think those of us who love this nation should be here, sort out our problems here, instead of going to shout about our problems elsewhere. So my view is that I'm patriotic, and I would consider that kind of act as not quite patriotic. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, Mheshimiwa Junet. Now, who raised the question first? Kamote?
Thank you, Chair. So, as Kenyans, we do appreciate the fact that our IEBC is seemingly looking transparent, particularly when it comes to having our votes counted in the voting centers, polling centers. However, we've had problems with transmission in this republic. In that light, what is your view on Kenyans, our candidates in particular, having their tallying centers, their own tallying centers, and the media, because we have a media that has straightened things, what is your view on the media having their own tallying center rather than waiting for the main tallying, IEBC tallying center to give us results? Thank you, Chair.
Yes, Urako.
Thank you, Chairman. I want to say first, congratulations for your nomination and coming this far in the process. One, I just wanted to ask, I don't know if I missed it, maybe what kind of businesses are you engaged in? And secondly, after IEBC approved the BBI signature, some Kenyans argued that it was erroneous because IEBC didn't have a physical register of signatures. Do you think IEBC can maintain a signature of registers or have one? And if so, how can IEBC go about it?
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Wanderi, I have two brief questions. One, from your CV, you've been a consultant for many companies. You've also indicated right now you're still a management consultant, and you're also in private businesses. My understanding of the role of a commissioner of IEBC is a full-time engagement. How do you intend to manage the businesses that you've been running while still running? If you succeed for approval for appointment, how will you manage the two? Number two, there are numerous spoiled votes in every election. Does it worry you as it does worry me? And if you qualify for, if you are approved by Parliament for appointment for the position of a commissioner, what will you do to reduce the number of votes that are usually spoiled in every election, which run into hundreds of thousands at the national level? Thank you.
We have Kaluma. Mheshimiwa Kaluma, do you have any question? Mheshimiwa Kaluma on the link. Very well. Answer those questions.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair and the honorable members. I will start with the last question about the spoiled votes. I uphold the view that the cause of the spoiled votes is mostly has to do with the level of voter education and civic education that the Kenyans get. And one of the mandates of IEBC is to ensure that there's proper voter education. And IEBC using the partners, because there are very many people who would be willing, stakeholders who would be willing to work with IEBC, including organizations like the churches and what have you, should undertake. And I intend that if I am appointed to IEBC, I will do my best to ensure that we have voter education that helps the voter to be able to understand where and how to put the mark. I don't think there is anybody who comes from his house to come and spoil a vote. So they do so because they do not know. So that ignorance has to be breached, and that is the responsibility of IEBC. The other one about managing the various jobs, I am a director in a company called Roots Credit Limited. It's not a full-time job, so that we will learn because we have other directors. And my consultancy, I would wish to currently stop, because the job of IEBC is enormous, and it is important to focus on it without other distractions. I wish to state that to this committee. And that has to do also with the question that the honorable members had about my businesses I'm engaged in. Now, about the signatures which the honorable member has asked, right now, we are identifying, you are identified through your tab. So the issue of signatures, because of technology, is going to be obsolete. So there's probably, we have to follow the law as it is now, and using technology, see which areas we need to adjust so that we can make any engagement of identifying the people who have supported or registered using the technology. And I think that is the way to go. That's the way the world is going, and that would be the best way to look at that. On the issue of tallying centers, I think the law is clear that it's only an IEBC that can have a tallying center. And as we execute the mandate which will be given when we are appointed, we would want to follow the law to the letter. And if there are any changes in terms of that law, this committee and honorable members will be coming to you to ask to change the law where it needs to be changed for any particular reason. So I would want to see a very close working relationship between IEBC and this committee in terms of developing laws that are going to guide this nation forward in elections. In terms of transmission of results, I would expect probably learning from what we saw last time and the failures that we saw last time. I would expect probably by now, IEBC has already identified the weakness in terms of technology and have developed ways of sorting it out. If they have not, probably that would be one of the first assignments that we must undertake, because technology can fail, but then if it fails, what are the provisions? And that provisions, they have to be within the law. So I'm looking at it from a point of view that IEBC by now must have done that. If they have not done, we need to do it as a matter of urgency and as a matter of priority, so that we do not have the kind of thing we saw last time happening again. Thank you, Chair.
All right, I think, do you have any concern?
Yeah, Chair. Chair, I want to ask Mr. Wanderi two issues. Number one, Mr. Wanderi, as you are aware, you are joining the IEBC, which has suffered some credibility crisis for some time now because of the elections that were nullified by the courts, the repeat elections. Some commissioners left office, and they stayed without commissioners for almost 3 years now. What do you think you're going to do differently when you join that commission at this point in time? My second question, which is more important, is as you're aware, there was a ruling of the appeal court 3 days ago, precisely on Friday, I think. And the court found out that IEBC had no quorum and they had no mandate to do any policy work in that commission. What will you do, or what is your view? Will you consider it as an illegality, the work that was done from that time when there was no quorum in around 2018, April, up to today? What is your view about that?
Thank you, Chair and the honorable member. Let me start by credibility crisis. It is common knowledge, and it is in all of us that there are issues of credibility at IEBC, and particularly arising from last election. One, I hold the view that for IEBC to build its credibility, it needs to engage with all the stakeholders. And that includes the political parties and the leaders of the political parties. Because even as we talk about the independence of IEBC, it has to take into account that it is not operating as an island. It is operating within a political system and a governance system. And the views that the customers, and I consider the stakeholders, the political parties, the agents of government that work with IEBC as the customers, we must, as IEBC, be ready to serve them and serve their interest in the best way possible. So for us to build the credibility of IEBC, we need to engage all the stakeholders. That is very, very key as far as I'm concerned. So that is how we do things differently. I do not want to see an IEBC that is seen as a policeman for the elections, because that is not the work of IEBC. It is okay to deliver the elections, but that is not the only work. That is important. Coming back to your second question about the appeal court ruling, I feel very happy that this ruling was made about IEBC. And the reason why I say is because it now gives us the basis for saying is what has been done by the current commissioners good enough. If I'm appointed, I will ask the members who are there, together with the new members, that we review anything from buying a pin, anything that is related to the coming elections. We must review everything from the beginning and agree on what must be done, and not only done, must be done right. That is my position, and I think I'm sure even the chairman, the current chairman of IEBC, would not want to see an election that turns out to be like the one we did last time. No Kenyan, not in the chair, no Kenyan who is in sound mind would want to see an election like the one we saw last time. We'd want to do a good process. We take control of us. We agree. And not only the commissioners. I want to imagine that the managers and the secretariat is part of the process. So I would want to establish a way through which the governance issues that are related to the running of the elections, from the commission to the management, through the committees, everything is under control and properly managed. That is my view. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, members. Mr. Adel, before we release you, let me make certain comments. Maybe if you are, in case you are approved, then these some areas that of concern that may interest you. One, you may think, or do you think, that voter education and elections should be included in school curricula? Right? Civic education covering elections and voting, perhaps right from the primary school all the way through, should be part of curricula to inculcate some sense of responsibility in terms of voter education. Then two, I didn't hear you mention any experience in the area of procurement. But year in, year out, IEBC and election bodies have been visited by scandals and some haphazard way of conducting procurements. Maybe that is an area you may comment or consider to improve on. And then there is a comment I made to your colleague who just left. But he may also perhaps comment on it. Kenyans had been bred to a culture that carries elections year to year, day to day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, campaigns. And this stultifies economic growth and day-to-day lives of the people, endless campaigns. Do you think steps should be taken to legislate, curtail these against penalties, confine them depending on what type of elections, like bylaws through timeline? You say if it's presidential, you say maybe 3 months before the event, or other elections. I'm just saying this. Do you think it's high time we did this? And lastly, let me perhaps give you a little guidance if you are taken. There is a doctrine, I think lawyers here know it, called estoppel and acquiescence. That if you believe a set scenario is proper in law, you give a return that it is proper. You cannot just wake up after some prolonged period and then say now this was again improper or illegal when you have already carried right? You carry your mandate, assuming that this is the way, and people take it, and then abruptly you come tomorrow capriciously and say, you are not a member of this body. And all a while, even in corporate governance, you've been a director throughout, you have made decisions, a member of parliament has legislated, then you come and say, oh, you are not, because of your elections was not properly carried out, or that. Maybe it's called acquiescence or estoppel, in a way which is called upon at times to guide our affairs so that you don't just capriciously disrupt the lives of the people. You make comments on those, you may reserve your comments, put it as your guidelines. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Let me start with the last one. And the reason how I want to relate that one to the
quorums and other things.
The reason why I want to relate that to what Honorable Junet Mohammed had asked about the ruling of the appeal court. I believe in taking responsibility of my actions and the actions that we may do with the committee. So I want to tell this committee that we will take full responsibility and the full credit or otherwise for the action of IEBC.
Francis Mathenge Wanderi, mtazamaji, mbele ya kamati ya bunge kuhusiana na masuala ya sheria pale akijibu maswali katika mahojiano hayo ya uteuzi wa makamishna wanne wa IEBC kujiunga bila shaka na tume hiyo ya uchaguzi na mipaka humu nchini. Kuchukua nafasi za wale makamishna ambao walijiuzulu awali, mtazamaji, ni makamishna wanne: Juliana Wonge Cherera ambaye amekamilisha awamu yake ya siku ya leo. Francis Mathenge Wanderi sasa anaendelea mbele ya